I've been to the Grist mill now on 6 ghost investigations, 6 spirit investigations. And Brandon was telling me the other day, people don't realize what it's like to be there. They see a different perspective because they're just watching a video. And I noticed that with my very first ghost investigation video. You put it up, people see it as a 2D. They see a very thinly cut, sliced version of what's actually going on. They want to mock it, they want to ridicule it, they want to make fun of it. It's hilarious. Perhaps a large portion of people watch ghost hunting shows to make fun of them. I've definitely tuned in to a random ghost hunting show I've never heard of, and I definitely have chuckled at how much of a blunder what they were attempting seemed to be. But on this last investigation, here's some of the footage. I'm looking at the lock. The door is always locked. The combination was different. I forgot to bring a single one of these flashlights. I have them right in front of me. I own more than this, but here's 5 of my infrared flashlights. You turn just one of these on and you can see extreme brightness in the pitchness of black, and no one can see it. Animals can't see it, humans can't see it. Only infrared cameras can even see this light. So it's the perfect light to illuminate an area, yet keep the area pitch black. That's why infrared is my recommendation for ghost hunting, spirit investigations. Unless you're there yourself, you're not going to know what it's like. Walking in the middle of the night to an abandoned location by yourself, the best way I can describe it is walking into, Luke Skywalker is a pop culture reference. I'm referencing a fictional thing to describe a real thing. But even the Star Wars movie and this scene, I believe, was inspired by mythology, which is more than just mythology. It reminds me of the Cave of the Oracle. You remember the scene where Luke Skywalker walks into the cave and Yoda, it's part of the Jedi training. Yoda asks him, see for yourself, see your greatest fears. It's a dark place there. I can't remember the exact words Yoda uses, but he basically says that's an evil place. Go in there and you will see your darkest fears. Luke Skywalker walks into the cave, doesn't know what to expect. Yoda says, you will not need your weapons. And Luke Skywalker's like, I'm not taking my chances. He brings his lightsaber anyway. It's a place where you see visions. Luke Skywalker sees a vision that Darth Vader is him, that he is Darth Vader. He doesn't understand the vision. Obviously, we realize later on that Darth Vader is his father. Bada bing, bada boom. Big secret. But going to the Grist Mill, for me, is kind of like that. It's pretty scary. It's why I say I come in peace, I will go in peace, before I get there and when I leave. I've been there on 6 night investigations. 5 of those were by myself or 100% solo. One of those was with Brandon Young. I was there for 1 day investigation in the daytime, somewhere around noonish, because I wanted to get some day shots, because I am making a documentary on the grist mill itself. I thoroughly investigated the history. The plaque says who built it, so I researched the person who built it. I found the grave site of the person who built the grist mill. I found the grave. His grave is not labeled with his name, but it's labeled with his last name. It's a family grave where the entire family, generation after generation, are buried pretty much probably stacked on top of each other. It's in their family wishes. It's a very nice spot, and it's a very limited space spot. And they wanted to be close to their church, and for that reason they wanted to be in the church graveyard. The church graveyard is very, very small. The only way for relatives to be buried next to each other is pretty much in a family grave. And I found it, and I saw it, and I paid my respects to the builder of the grist mill itself. He built multiple buildings. I have seen another building he helped build, and there's another one, and I want to go to that other one of these days. And researching the other one, people say it's haunted. I mean, an old, 200-year-old building that is rarely used is going to be haunted. Abandoned locations in general are haunted. There's an old religious legend that says that a particular religious leader gave permission to negative spirits to leave his residence alone. And he gave permission for them to go into the woods, go into the forests, go into the abandoned places. And even though this is mythology and legend and lore, and I'm not going to even say the name of the religion that the guy's associated with, because people will try to read into it and say, I'm just trying to get information that relates to the fact that the grist mill is legitimately haunted. This location, legitimately haunted, been there on 6 night investigations, 1 day investigation, and before I ever investigated it, I had been there, I believe, at least 3 times, maybe more, maybe 4 times. And on the day investigations, I went with people just to check it out as a historical monument. I didn't sense any ghosts. I didn't sense any spirits. I guess in the back of my head, I thought to myself, it could, it's a prime location. It could be haunted. Who knows? But it's like visiting a historic monument in the daytime. You're like, people say it's haunted. I don't see nothing. I don't notice anything. Seems normal to me. Just an old building. Just old and dusty. That doesn't mean it's haunted. Even after telling people I went to this historical monument with in the day that, hey, by the way, this place is haunted. If you go there at night and you turn on ghost investigation equipment, it's legitimately haunted. The spirit will set off the devices. And now I can officially say the spirit will speak if you are patient. Having been there 6 times, I wasn't there 6 days back to back. This is stretched across many years. The first time I ghost investigated this location, I believe, was 2018. I went there a couple times in 2018, a couple times in 2019. I guess I must have gone there 3 times. Well, a total of 5 times in 2018 and 2019. I went there 5 times on separate months every single time. And then I never went there in 2020 because 2020 was a very hectic year. And then back on Hexanoct, April 30th, 2021, I returned. And walking on the site, the second I got there, I felt the presence of the spirit. Brandon describes it how he describes it. Perhaps he wants to make a video on it. But briefly, just to summarize, he said it feels like a shadow has descended, or a shadow just has come over the whole area. He says even if it's pitch black and it doesn't make sense and there are no clouds and shadows, you can definitely feel something spiritual going on. It's a location that is receptive to spirits. After researching the area long enough, I have never been able to find a single ghost story about this particular building. Not a single ghost story. So I'm not there because I heard some tabloid report and I wanted to follow up on it. I was driving through town. I remembered this historical monument I've been to. And like at 3 a.m. I decided, you know what? Let's go. And by the time I had everything set up, it was 4 a.m. and I left like at 5 a.m. That was my first night investigation at the location. And then I came back around 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. It's different. It's different every time. But the spirit setting off these devices is the same every time. The spirit very cooperatively sets off the devices. The first time I saw the devices set off, it was like a Wizard of Oz moment. It's pretty freaky. It was like the man behind the curtain is doing something and you can't see how he's doing it. It was pretty freaky, pretty scary. But I believe there is a veil of the dimensions and a spirit's hand is just doing this. But more specifically, isn't just doing this. When the spirit sets it off, the spirit's very precise in how it sets it off. So perhaps the spirit's doing this. I don't know how spirits set off electric devices, specifically the static meters, but they do set off static meters. They have the ability to manipulate static. Spirits can manifest static seemingly out of nowhere. A scientist could most definitely say that's unusual, that's unknown. For static to intelligently do this to a device. But it feels like you're entering your darkest fears when you get on the location. It's not my subconscious projecting into the air and magically setting off devices. It's not my subconscious speaking, and what I heard was an echo. When I hear the spirit voice, which I did have to boost over 1,000%, but even without boosting it at all, I could hear. It's very whispery. It sounded like it said, anywhere, 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 anywhere. It said the word anywhere, okay? Now, spirits whisper, okay? They whisper a lot, okay? Anywhere, anywhere, anywhere. They whisper. I've investigated many locations. I've recorded not too many EVPs, to be honest, electronic voice phenomena, from spirits. Now, I will say this. At this particular night, I do listen. I listen for things, and I listen to the audio on the playback, and I did hear on multiple occasions in this video, I heard a wind type sound come out of the house window. It sounded like artificial wind. Or more specifically, it didn't sound like natural wind. There was no breeze. I didn't feel any breeze going on. But it sounded like there was a type sounds with the wind coming out of the window. Perhaps that was the spirit practicing on how to turn that air into a voice. I don't know. But I have heard that paranormal wind sound before at the Tucson Tunnel. And the first time I heard the grist mill voice, which I originally thought it said, "Thank you anyways." But upon listening to the anyways part 1,000 times, anywhere. It clearly says anywhere, anywhere. And I don't know if it says thank. It could say take. It could say see you anywhere. See you anywhere. Spirits are non-material. Perhaps the grist mill can be anywhere. Pretty freaky. But one thing I learned during ghost investigating, which I didn't know was a thing. So it's an actual legitimately new piece of information I actually learned. If you're someone with high perception, if your perceptive abilities are extremely high, I would say mine are high. I'm not trying to brag or boast, but I can perceive what's going on. At the grist mill, I'll occasionally hear like a microscopically broken twig, and I'll listen, what's that? It's probably an animal a ways off stepping on a twig. But it could be the spirit wanting me to turn my head and hear what's coming out of the window. It could be multiple spirits. This grist mill spirit has the ability to throw rocks. It threw a rock, I think, twice. One time during the day investigation, when I was just getting day shots. I believe I heard a small stone thrown against the house itself. And this is a very remote area, not a single human within half a mile radius, quarter mile radius. You might not think that's a huge amount of space, but it's very remote. There's no reason anyone would want to be there unless they want to take shots, but it's not a tourist attraction. It's not a tourist location. There's a plaque that says 1950 on it. I believe it was supposed to be transformed into a potential landmark that people could visit, but it never was. So the grist mill is an unusual historical landmark that pretty much has no easy access. So people don't go there except for extreme locals. Even I didn't know the place existed for many years. I've already mentioned this many times. The grist mill was built by an ex-pirate who did sail on a Spanish pirate ship. And I'm someone who went to San Ynez Valley Union High School, home of the Pirates, and we got that name because of this guy's association with this building and other buildings that he built. He's an ex-pirate. He's a legitimate pirate. It's a very cool history, very interesting. So the first thing pops into mind when I walked around there for the very first time was, is there gold buried here? No, there's no gold buried here. It was a commissioned project. It was never his personal house. It was never his personal spot of anything. He built it as a commissioned project. He was the foreman during the building. But I don't believe the good guy who built it in any way, shape, or form is the spirit at the location. I very much believe spirits occupy abandoned locations because they are given permission to do so, and because no one can bother them. They can live their non-lives, whatever you want to call it, afterlives. I don't believe they're human ghosts, though. I know I cut back and forth, but it reminds me, I was going to say, after researching the area, there is one ghost story associated with the area if you just go a couple miles in another direction. A couple miles down the road, I found a story associated with the area of the grist mill. I can't tell the whole story, and I can't use exact everything, because you'll Google it and find the location. At this moment, the grist mill is still something I don't want to reveal for multiple reasons. It's not just for selfish reasons. It's also for the fact that there's no easy access. And if you want to get there, you have to probably cross someone's property. And if I'm the result of 100 people crossing someone's private property, I'll be to blame for that. But it is legal to be there and check it out as a historical monument, landmark. Has a plaque, you can take pictures, you just can't go inside. It's locked, no access inside. But no easy access to get there. So it's... Anyway, here's the story. A couple miles down the road, someone was shopping, parking, whatever the case, maybe driving, parking, shopping. I don't know what they were doing, all right? But someone was on a certain street corner, okay? I don't know if they were parked inside the car, outside the car, but it's next to an area with a little miniature freeway, a little miniature highway, whatever. I don't know what it's called, don't care. But it's an area with roads, and this person with, I believe, someone else. So it's two people witnesses at the same time, which gives more credibility to it. They saw a stagecoach, a black stagecoach. They saw someone driving the stagecoach. I think they were wearing a black hat. I don't know if it was a top hat. I have to revisit the story, but to cut the story short, there was someone inside of the stagecoach. I believe it was a woman. There was a stagecoach driver. I believe he was wearing a black top hat. It was a black stagecoach with black horses. And, just driving down the road. No big deal. Just a stagecoach driving down the road. And these people look at it like, wow, that's kind of out of place. And then they look back and it's gone. It vanished. It didn't turn left. It didn't turn right. It's on a straightaway. It goes for a few seconds. They turn, they look at it. It's gone. It's a phantom stagecoach. A phantom stagecoach. Pretty freaky. That's pretty freaky. I believe someone made a connection to the devil, and the devil was taking away a lady to hell, and the lady passenger in the stagecoach was someone going to hell. I don't know about that. I don't know where they got that information. Don't know about that. But the fact that that ghostly encounter happened just a couple miles away from the grist mill, pretty freaky. I am editing this video right now. I have to cut out all the parts where I use this ghost box because I didn't get any ghost box audio of any voices. It was just static the whole time. I just watched a video by Gary Galka, who creates this ghost box with speaker and an additional setup. It's a beautiful device, and he shows you the perfect setting to set it at. I didn't know this information until I watched that YouTube video. So now, before I go to the ghost investigation, pretty much I'm going to have to bring a regular flashlight. I can't 100% rely on ultraviolet flashlights. I need to bring a infrared. That's it. Infrared. I do have an ultraviolet flashlight I use for full spectrum, but I haven't had any success with full spectrum. Some ghost investigators have success with full spectrum. Full spectrum is where it looks purple. Almost everything looks purple. It shows more light spectrum, and with an infrared flashlight, ultraviolet flashlight, you could perhaps see even more. Haven't had any success with that as of yet. Need a regular flashlight, not just an infrared flashlight. So I can turn it on and look at this device and actually push the buttons correctly. It's a little bit of a complicated procedure in the dark. But with the light, I'm sure I could do it. So a ghostly stagecoach was witnessed near this location not too many years ago. This is a pretty modern ghost sighting. I was expecting this story to be from like 1955, but no. It's a modern day ghost story. How old is it? I can't remember. I can't remember how old it is, but I think the story was in the past 15 years. So past 15 years is very recent in terms of a ghost story. When I went back to the grist mill this last time, and I hadn't been there in over a year, over 12 months hadn't been there. The spirit acted like I was just there yesterday. The spirit acted like a 12, 13, 14, 15, I have to look up the dates. I can't remember the last time I was there. It could have been a year and a half. But, you know, I'm gone for over 13 months, and the spirit acted like I was gone for just 3 days, or 2 days, 1 day. The spirit acted like, sure, I'll set off the devices. I talked about Hex and Oct. When you're holding a ghost box and you get no responses, you know, you're wondering what's going on. So I told the spirit the plot for the Gone in 60 Seconds. I probably gave the worst version ever of that movie. But I did get an EVP. A B class, class B. You can hear at least one word. Anywhere. I heard it. So if you can at least hear one word, but it's not extremely clear, it's class B. If the spirit said, "See you anywhere," in full-blown, "See you anywhere," perfect audio, now that's class A. That's a class A EVP. I would say a class C EVP would be, perhaps that would be class C, where you hear what sounds like words, but there's zero, you can't hear a single one of the words. But I could hear something, and it sounded like you. And when I listened to the audio very closely, I didn't hear it 1,000 times, but a good 20 times in a row, it sounded like the you is extremely low. It sounded like, "Take you anywhere. Take you anywhere." The you sounds extremely low. Almost sounds like it's being spoke by a different person. It sounds kind of demonic, to be honest. But some people can't hear it. It clearly is there. The Tucson Tunnel. The voice is reminiscent. It sounded like an old man at the Tucson Tunnel. The clearest audio was pointed out to me by a comment of one of you commenting on YouTube. It said, "That's not a spirit." And I played it back, and I played it back, and I heard it for the first time. Thanks to you pointing that out. It said, "That's not a spirit. That's not a spirit." I'm using the millimeter for one of the first times on video. This very millimeter right here. I'm using it for the first time on video. And back then it had the original antenna, which since broke. But I had it replaced and fixed. But I was putting the antenna close to a piece of metal and it started going off. And I'm like, I wonder if there's any spirits in there. And the spirit literally said in a super clear EVP, "That's not a spirit." Now, it said, "That's not a spirit." I would personally call that a Class A EVP. Yes, it's whispery. You can hear every single word. That's not a spirit. Very unusual for a spirit to use the word spirit itself. Very interesting. That's not a spirit. It spoke very whispery. Sounded like a whisper. Clear voice, clear as day. Perhaps certain people can't hear tones of voice. Someone made a comment, they can't hear low tones. For some people, it's the exact opposite. They can't hear high tones. I happen to know someone who is impaired with their hearing, and they tell me that they cannot hear certain tones. I can't remember, what did they say? They said, I can't hear tones within a certain range. Like male tones are harder to hear than female tones. Something to that effect. So that's something to keep in mind. Wear headphones if you want to hear my EVPs. I think it's phenomenal information. I think it's phenomenal evidence. But everyone wants something better. I learned years and years and years and years and years ago. I learned many years ago that the most die-hard skeptic of extreme skepticism, if a ghost manifested in front of them and socked their teeth out, socked one of their teeth out, one of their front teeth was dislodged from their jaw and fell on the ground. And the spirit said, I'm a spirit. I just punched you in the teeth. What are you going to do? And the spirit disappears. Some skeptics are so skeptical, they would say, I wonder what that was. Did I do drugs last night? What is that? What's going on? They would try to rationalize it away as something other than a spirit. Similarly, a spirit manifests in someone's room and then dematerializes. And that person swears up and down it's an extraterrestrial from another planet. It's an extraterrestrial from another planet was in my room. What are the chances? I didn't know I'm so popular intergalactically on other solar systems, other galaxies, other universes, other planes of existence. Well, some of these extraterrestrial fans are open-minded enough to think that it's interdimensional. It is interdimensional. These beings are interdimensional, but they're not going to another solar system. They're not going to another galaxy. They're on this planet, but they're wanting to rationalize it away as nothing or as ET is pretty fascinating to me. It's pretty fascinating. I think the show Ancient Aliens has really washed the brains of many a person. That show is entertainment. See, that show is showing archaeology and twisting it as much as it can twist blood out of a stone on it being extraterrestrial when it's not. Because that sells. That sells. Spirits do not sell. Unless you have a spirit manifest, pick up an object and throw it, and then, of course, that spirit will be mistaken as Bigfoot. And that was Bigfoot, not a poltergeist. Bigfoot. Grist Mill, when you get there, very freaky, very scary. I even told the spirit firsthand. I told the spirit, I said, remember when you walked in the grass? My first encounter, the spirit walked in the grass. Very vigorously, very obviously, very like a miniature stampede. It sounded like an animal running in circles, like 30 times, and then charging at me, but a very small animal. It sounded like perhaps a gnome getting angry. A gnome charging in the grass. So it was scary, but at the same time, I'm trying to judge how big this creature is. It was 100% optically invisible. I searched for animals. I searched for evidence of animals. 0 animals on the area. 0 animals where I heard the footprints, the footsteps. No footprints. I didn't see any prints. No prints. Just footsteps in the grass, super obviously. And it was pretty frightening. But it wasn't frightening enough where I wanted to leave. I think the entity wanted to scare me off, didn't work. So I related last time I was there to the spirit. I admit it was pretty scary. But now we're best buds. That's what I said to the spirit this last time. I said, now we're best buds. I'm just trying to get evidence for scientific purposes. Before I showed up, I said this is for science. It's for scientific evidence. Why would I go back time and time and time and time again, over and over and over and over and over, recording the same devices going off over and over and over and over and over? That's what science is. That is the definition of science. When you do something over and over and over and over and over to prove scientifically what it is and what it is not. So I believe I'm one of the most scientific ghost hunters in the world. I'm trying to approach the subject from a scientific perspective. If I had greater funding, you'd see me gallivant across the globe. And I'd be investigating the most haunted castle here, the most haunted manor there. But I don't have that type of access. So I got to go down the street, got to go down the road, got to plan a trip for many, 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 many months just to go 1 hour down the road. But I'm going to continue to investigate. Ever since I started ghost investigating, I've had the thought, if I ever travel across the world, I'm bringing my ghost hunting equipment. I did bring my ghost hunting equipment when I traveled to the East Coast. I have to admit, it was a vacation, and it was only a vacation. And so I rarely used the equipment. I remember only using it once, and I remember nothing happening. And I remember thinking to myself, this is a vacation. You don't want to ruin it with a ghost investigation, so I didn't. But if I ever go across the globe, 1,000% I'm bringing my ghost hunting equipment, and I'm doing real ghost investigations at historical sites or wherever I happen to be. You heard the bell. The video time is expired. I have to get going. But I think ghost investigating can enhance any trip. Like if I'm going to visit the catacombs, can I bring a device in my hand? Do I have to mention such? I'm going to hide it in my pocket and pull it out, pretend it's my cell phone and put it back in. Because so many places are barred from ghost hunting. So many places are banned from ghost investigating equipment. Audio, video, meters that just detect static. Meters that just detect electromagnetic fields. Totally harmless meters that don't hurt a single human. But many of these devices are banned in many, many, many areas. It's too bad. The world still sees it as an extreme taboo. It doesn't matter where you go. I've been kicked out of and harassed. And they're going to say the same thing about me. They're going to say, I was harassing them with my meter. I just want to get 10 seconds of reading at a historical site. Bada bing, bada boom. I guess I really haven't been kicked out, but I've been greatly discouraged. And most places don't have no ghost hunting equipment rules. They'll have rules for flash photography, stuff like that. I was at the Winchester Mystery House, and I was in the room where the seance took place. At the Winchester Mystery House, the famous Houdini seance. And the tour guide didn't mention it. Didn't mention it once. At the end of the tour, she said, any questions? I said, yeah, where's the room where Houdini had the seance? She said, oh yeah, we were just back there a while ago. It's like, what the heck? So I got to go back in that tour. You can say a word in the center of the room and it echoes quite extremely. There's a good echo in that room. It is like a witch tower or witch hat shaped tower room. And the inside is just wooden, just the framework. And Houdini chose that room specifically so he could see if any hidden fake devices were planted around the room. Houdini was so paranoid that every single medium and every single seance was fake that he chose a room with no drywall so he could see that there wasn't any hidden gimmick trickery taking place. Most definitely, gimmicks and trickery took place at most definitely hundreds of seances with a handful of magicians, illusionists, and frauds. But what Houdini failed to acknowledge, which is too bad, although he did acknowledge it for 1 month, according to Arthur Conan Doyle, was that some seances are real and some communications with spirits are real. This is what science doesn't understand. They see one side, they're like, oh, that's the side we're going with. Fake? You faked it? Every ghost is fake. Wow! There's still the real ones over here, science. There's a lot of fraud and trickery over here. There's still real ones over here. So even if you've been to 100 seances and you've only been to 100 fake ones, I'd say you're just going to the wrong places. Maybe switch it up and choose a different host. I'm sure there are a lot of fake circus type parlor trick, fake psychics, fake mediums, fake hosts, just there to rake in the money. And they consider it, just merely their profession. They're performing a stage performance from their perspective. But there are real mediums, there are real psychics, there are real, just regular people that are not mediums and not psychics. Just sit down with the intent to communicate with spirits, and spirits can come through. So, I mean, psychics, mediums, I don't believe you have to be particularly super psychic or particularly a super medium for spirits to come through. And I believe anyone and everyone can have a little bit of psychic and a little bit of medium in them. So science doesn't comprehend in any way, shape, or form the gravity of how easy it is to communicate with a spirit and get audio. The bubbles are telling the tale that this video is over. But you got my point, you got my gist, what I'm trying to say. Spirits are real. Some seances are real, were real historically. I'm tracking down some of the real ones. And in the process, I've tracked down some of the fake ones. So I'm going to be showing two sides of the coin. I'm going to be showing some of the real seances that actually took place. And I'm going to be showing some of the fake ones that took place. Most definitely gimmicks, trickery, charlatans of every type exist and have always existed and will always exist to an extent. Stay tuned. The truth can show you great things. One thing I left out was spirits can be physically attached to a physical piece of land. Or non-physically, I mean. That's one thing I learned ghost investigating, is spirits can choose a piece of land or perhaps be bound like by invisible chains to a piece of land. It's an unusual concept. I thought spirits could fly through walls and go to outer space and do whatever they want. They cannot. Spirits are bound to this planet. Spirits can't fly to the moon unless an astronaut flies to the moon. And they are attached to that astronaut, which would lead psychologists to believe, oh, spirits are just part of the psyche, just an artifact of the psyche. Nope, They're not. Spirits are independently real. There's a good one and a bad one following us 24/7. But don't be scared of the bad one following us, because there's a good one following us. They kind of cancel each other out. But they're there as guides, anti-guides, protectors, anti-protectors. It's a crazy world. Spirits exist. But once you get over the fact they've always existed, it's not that scary. Stay tuned. More episodes coming soon. Be seeing you.